I saw it before I heard anything, because there was nothing to hear, no whimper, no bark. Only a silence so heavy my chest tightened. A Doberman pup, maybe 3 or 4 months old, huddled beside a crushed metal frame on Market Street. Its black and tan coat, supposed to be sleek, was dull, streaked with filth. Ribs showed like bent iron bars beneath skin. Its whole body trembled, as if one hard gust would break that small frame into pieces. People flowed past. Shoes hit pavement. Coffee lids clicked. Phones glued to faces like salvation. Nobody bent down. A man brushed past and muttered, "Dirty dog?" Another laughed. "Trash." The words cut the air. Sunlight spilled across the little body, as if the city had already decided it was meant to disappear. I froze. My name is Harlan. 46. Veteran. Homeless. The sidewalk has been my bed for many years. My worn shoes are the only things that have stayed. I knew that look. Wide eyes, wet. The look of someone the world has struck from the list. I had carried that look in my own eyes for nights on end. In the dog's mute gaze, I saw myself reflected. I don't know when I bent. The steam from the hot brick stung my nose. The closer I got, the smaller it seemed. Thin legs, paws no larger than bottle caps. Its head hung heavy, not strong enough to lift. I threaded my hand through the warped metal, skin scraping against rust. Its body twitched when my shadow fell over it, but it didn't struggle. It had no strength left to choose. My fingers found the rough fur. Spots still warm, spots already cold, as if the body hovered between staying and going. I lifted it. A thin breath escaped, and it buried its face in my chest like it had always known me. It weighed almost nothing, but in my arms it felt heavier than any rifle I'd carried across a battlefield. This wasn't gear, not a weapon. It was a life, shrunken, nearly spent, entrusting everything to me. I wrapped my old jacket around its small frame and pulled it tight so the harsh sunlight wouldn't beat on it. People kept moving, eyes blank, their indifference sharper than any blade. But pressed to my chest, a faint heartbeat tapped, irregular, fragile, but real. A command rose inside me. Don't stop. Keep going. Find somewhere. Don't let it vanish. I melted into the crowd. Each step felt like wading upstream through a river trying to drag us under. My stomach growled. My legs ached from nights on cold concrete. Still, my hand didn't loosen. It was terrifyingly light, ribs wrapped in skin, shivering with every breath. Its head dropped into the hollow of my shoulder, and for a moment I feared I'd lost it. Then the small ears twitched, a stubborn sign it was still fighting. I pressed my lips to that coarse fur and whispered, voice raw, "Hang on, kid. Don't let go." It stirred. Its nose brushed my coat like it was searching for something. Milk, warmth, or simply proof someone had not abandoned it. My throat tightened. I knew that hunger, not just for food, but for someone to acknowledge your existence. Market Street roared, buses hissing, horns blaring, laughter spilling from bars, but all of it thinned to noise. The only sound I clung to was that fragile breathing against my chest. Each rise and fall raises a question. Are you going to leave? I tightened the jacket, answering in silence. No. Not this time, not me. We passed a woman walking a poodle on a glittering leash. She hurried across the street before we came near. A man, behind dark glasses, shook his head. To them, we were zeros. Me in my ragged coat, a broken dog curled up inside. But a different fire had sparked inside me. It was not refused, it was breathing, and as long as it breathed, I did not have the right to let go. The road ahead yawned. I had no destination, only one certainty: we couldn't stay. I held it tighter, letting that small heartbeat keep time like a last drum in a war no one else wanted to fight. I hurried down Market Street, clutching the bundle of jackets to my chest. The pup's fragile breaths tapped against my ribs like a tiny countdown. My legs felt like lead, but one thought circled my head. Find somewhere, anywhere, that could save him. I bent to look at the little head burrowed against my shirt. The black and tan coat trembled, the soft ears folded inward. He could not be just a nameless dog. If he was to live, he needed a name, a reason to be called, a reason to exist. I whispered, my voice rough. From now on, you're Odin. A strong name, a warrior. You won't fall, not while I'm here. The small ears flicked. His eyelids opened for a beat, then closed again. Still, he pressed closer, as if he'd heard and agreed. In a city that turned its back, at least now we had each other, me and Odin. Ahead, a faded sign came into view. Veterinary clinic, walk-ins welcome. My heart hit with a sudden, sharp hope. I tightened the jacket and whispered again, "We're there, Odin. Hang on. Don't leave me." The glass door slid open. The air inside was clinical, cold and sterile in a way that made my skin crawl. Bleach burned the back of my throat. Fluorescent lights threw a hard glare over the shiny floor. I heard keyboard clicks, the scrape of claws against metal from cages behind the counter. Odin shivered in the jacket. His nose twitched, hunting for a familiar breath. But everything smelled of chemicals. Nothing warm. The woman at the desk looked up. Her smile was automatic, then dropped when her eyes landed on me, some man in a ragged coat, stubble, ruined shoes. Her look skimmed me like she'd seen 1,000 like me, an inconvenience. Then, for a heartbeat, her gaze fell on Odin. I swallowed, stepped forward. "Please. He's so weak. He needs a vet now. He won't make it if he waits." My hand shook as I pulled the jacket aside. Odin lay still, eyes half closed, his chest barely rising. By the look on his face, there wasn't much time. The receptionist sighed. Her voice was cold as steel. "Do you have an appointment?" I shook my head, voice hoarse. "No, I don't have anything but a name. But he needs help now." Her eyes narrowed. "If you don't have an appointment, you have to register. We need an owner's address for our records." The word hit like a hammer. I had no address. Just sidewalks, underpasses, dark corners. I hugged Odin tighter, feeling that small warmth slipping. I pleaded softly, "Listen, I'm Harlan. His name is Odin. This is all I have. Don't turn him away." She pressed her lips together, fingers pausing above the keys. A slow shake of the head. "If you leave him, we'll call animal control." That's policy. The word landed heavily. I pulled Odin closer, shielding him from that indifferent stare. He twitched, his ears dropped, his nose sought my chest as if to flee the world. I thought of the battlefield, how many times a comrade had gasped in my hands with seconds left, everything hanging on whether someone would reach out. Now it was the same, only this time the life in my arms was a Doberman pup. A man with a big retriever snorted and pulled his dog away, contempt plain. A woman holding a cat leaned down and whispered to her child, then turned her back. Their eyes skated over me and slid off, as if I were invisible, as if Odin were waste. I drew a breath and tried again, my voice smaller, softer. "Please, just look at him. Don't treat him like paperwork. Treat him like a life. Just look." She tapped her nails on the desk. "We're full." "I'm really sorry." Her voice carried no sorrow. Then she turned to the next customer. The bell chimed as I pushed the door and stepped back into the sun. The heat hit like a slap. I looked down at Odin. He breathed shallow and buried his head deeper into my shirt as if asking, "Are you still here?" I whispered the promise lodged in my throat. "If this world has no room for you, I'll find one." I swear, and I walked on, carrying a trembling life and a new small fire inside me, searching for a door that would not close in our faces. I carried Odin away from that first doorway, the bell's cold chime still stabbing at my chest. Sunlight on Market Street beat down like a furnace. Odin's breath was paper-thin, his little head tucked deep into my shirt. I whispered, "We won't stop. I promise." A few blocks on, I saw another clinic. A bright poster hung in the window. "Rescue Month. Every life matters." Smiling dogs and cats looked out from the paper with glossy eyes. My heart trembled. Maybe this was the place. Maybe those words could be true. I tightened the jacket around Odin and pushed inside. The room was smaller and crowded. Chairs filled with people, voices drifted, healthy pets sat on laps being petted. A little girl pointed at me, sing-song voice. "Mom, look, a puppy." Her mother turned away and pulled the child close, murmuring something I caught. "Don't stare." I stepped to the counter. The man behind it still had a stethoscope slung over his neck, pen moving across a clipboard without looking up. "How can I help you?" he asked. My mouth went dry. I took another step forward. He's very weak. I found him out on the street. He needs to be seen. Now." At last the man lifted his head. His gaze swept me, from the tattered coat to the lined face, then to Odin. A faint furrow crossed his brow, almost imperceptible, but it was there. His voice was flat and final. "We don't accept stray dogs picked up on the street. That's policy. He has to be turned over to animal control." I pulled Odin closer, feeling his ribs press against my own. My voice cracked, not with anger, but with fear. "Please, this isn't a case. This is Odin." He's breathing now, but he won't for long without help. "Please." For a moment, a few heads turned. A woman clutching a poodle drew it nearer, frowning. A man in a suit feigned a cough to avoid looking. Nobody stepped forward. No hand reached out. The man behind the desk sighed, loud enough for the room to hear. "Sir, this is a clinic. We have procedures. If you want him treated, you must follow protocol. No exceptions." I looked around. Faces turned away. Hands smoothed the fur of safe, well-fed pets. Meanwhile, in my arms, Odin breathed each ragged inhale as if stretching time thin. He stirred. His tiny nose rubbed my chin, trying to sink farther away from everything. My heart hammered like a drum. Amid the murmurs and the scrape of plastic chairs, there was one sound I could not bear. Odin's ragged breath. I whispered to him, this time only for him to hear. "You have me. That's enough." The man turned back to his notes. I stepped away, shoulders stiff. No one stopped me. No one said a word. I pushed open the door. The bell tinkled again, this time sounding like a sneer. Outside, the poster flapped. The slogan, "Every life matters," flashed like a raw, exposed lie. The sun was unforgiving. Pavement burned under my shoes. I bent and looked at Odin. He made a tiny, thread-like whimper. I bit my tongue and breathed through my teeth. "Just you and me, Odin. They can turn away, but I won't." I cinched the jacket tighter around him. A new hot flame of anger and resolve rose in my chest. If every door slammed, I would carry him through every alley and every block until I found a place that would not look away. I carried Odin away from that first door, the bell's cold chime still ringing in my chest. The sun on Market Street felt like it wanted to burn us both. Odin breathed like paper, his little head tucked deep into my shirt. I whispered, "We won't stop. I promise." A few blocks later, I found another clinic. A bright poster hung in the window. Rescue Month. Every life matters. Smiling dogs and glossy-eyed cats stared back from the paper. My heart stuttered. Maybe this was the place. Maybe those words were true. I tightened the jacket around Odin and pushed inside. Inside was smaller and crowded. Chairs filled with people, voices low, healthy pets warm on laps. A little girl pointed at me, squealing, "Mom, look, a puppy." Her mother turned away, pulled the girl close, murmuring, "Don't stare." I stepped to the counter. A man with a stethoscope draped around his neck was writing on a clipboard without looking up. "How can I help you?" he asked. My mouth went dry. He's very weak." I found him on the street. He needs to be seen now." Finally, the man looked up. His eyes scanned me, from the tattered coat to my lined face, then to Odin. A faint furrow crossed his brow. His voice was flat and final. "We don't accept strays picked up off the street. That's policy. He needs to go to animal control." I hugged Odin tighter, feeling his ribs press into my chest. My voice broke, not with anger but with fear. "Please, this isn't a case number. This is Odin. He's breathing now, but not for long without help. Please." Heads turned for a moment. A woman clutching a poodle drew it closer. A man in a suit pretended to cough. Nobody stepped forward. No hand reached out. The man at the desk sighed loud enough for the room to hear. "Sir, this is a clinic. We have procedures. If you want him treated, you must follow protocol. No exceptions." I looked at the faces around me, eyes slipping away, hands smoothing the fur of safe, well-fed pets. In my arms, Odin stretched each ragged breath like a borrowed minute. He nudged, his tiny nose rubbing my chin as if to hide deeper from the world. My heart drummed. In the murmur and the scrape of plastic chairs, there was one sound I could not bear, Odin's broken breathing. I whispered to him, this time only for him. "You have me. That's enough." The man turned back to his notes. I stepped away, shoulders stiff. No one stopped me. The bell chimed as I opened the door. The noise felt like a sneer. Outside, the poster flapped, and the slogan, "Every life matters," glinted like an exposed lie. The sun hammered down. Pavement burned under my shoes. I looked at Odin. He made a tiny, thread-like whimper. I bit down on my lip and breathed through my teeth. "Just you and me, Odin. They can turn away. I won't." I tightened the jacket around him. Inside, anger and resolve flared hot. If every door slammed, I would carry him through every alley, every block, until I found a place that would not look away. That night, as neon smeared across Market Street, I tried 2 doors and found both shut in our faces. Only the sidewalk was left. Wind hissed through metal gates like a blade. I found a chipped wall, pulled a piece of cardboard from a trash bin, and laid Odin down gently. He curled at once. The little nose trembled. He burrowed closer to my hand. I searched my pockets and found half a shriveled hot dog from lunch. I broke it into pieces, softened them with water from an empty bottle, and held them to his mouth. At first, there was no movement. His lids were heavy. My hand shook. My heart hammered. Then a tiny tongue licked my finger and swallowed the crumbs. A bit. Then a little more. I let out a breath I hadn't known I'd been holding. If he could eat, there was still a chance. I cradled his head in my palm and stroked the ragged spine. I could count the sharp ribs. Each swallow was a cut in my chest. Yet in that dark night,
Watching him work at those crumbs felt like holding a small flame, fragile, but not extinguished. People walked by. A pack of students staggered, laughing, plastic cups sloshing. One pointed at us and snickered, "Hey, is that a dog or a doll?" Laughter broke and died in the dark. Odin whimpered and tucked in closer. I bent and whispered, "Don't listen. You're not a joke. You're my fighter." A man in a suit tossed $1 onto the cardboard and walked on without looking. The crumpled bill sounded like pity. I wanted to shout, "You're dying, not me!" But my throat closed. I rocked Odin gently, the way I'd once seen mothers soothe children. The wind cut. I pulled my coat over both of us. Odin's breath was thin as tissue. Every rise of his chest felt like a small miracle. I closed my eyes and listened. Each breath, each ragged intake. I remembered field clinics, bandages, and will, where we kept men alive with nothing but cloth and stubbornness. Now it was a small dog who'd never known safety. He did not cry or fight. The quiet trust in him choked me. It was as if he said plainly, "I belong to you, if you do not give up." Night crawled. Sirens wailed. Distant music thumped from a bar. The world spun. But for me, there was only one small universe, Odin in my arms. I pressed my lips to his ear and let my breath warm his fur. "We'll make it through tonight. I promise." He twitched. A claw brushed my wrist, the tiniest motion, but it was enough of an answer. I sat until dawn, back numb, arms burning from holding still. I dared not loosen my grip. If I did, his fragile breath might stop. When morning light cut between the buildings, Odin's head still lay against my chest, and his ribs still rose. Thin, but there. I exhaled. Tears mixed with the morning mist. The long night had passed. But I knew this. If I didn't find another door, another hand, Odin wouldn't make many more dawns. When dawn spilled over Market Street, I was still propped against the cracked brick wall, Odin held tight to my chest. The long night had passed, but his face remained hollow. His breath was thin as torn paper. I knew. One more night like that, and he wouldn't last. I rose on numb legs, clutching him closer. I didn't know where to go. I only knew I had to move. People were already funneling toward Civic Center Plaza. A PA speaker hummed somewhere. Flyers flapped. The smell of bread and coffee rode the breeze. I pushed through the crowd, my eyes blurred, until a white van sat in the middle of the square, stenciled on its side, bold and plain. Mobile vet support. Free care for pets of the homeless. I stopped. My heart thudded. Maybe this time the words were true. I hurried, and Odin twitched in my jacket. His tiny claws brushed my chest, like he'd felt hope, too. A young volunteer approached, her smile softening when she looked at me. When she saw Odin, her face changed. No distance, no coolness, only worry. "Oh my God, this pup is so weak. Let me hold him." I tightened my grip, instinct refusing. He had trusted me all night. I didn't want to let go. Odin made a thin sound, like a thread breaking, and his little head nudged my chin as if to whisper, "Do it." My hand trembled as I handed him over. The volunteer cradled him gently, practiced hands that moved like they'd done this 100 times. "Clear a table. Need a space," she called. 2 others rushed over, unfolded a table, and laid down a clean towel. I followed, my pulse racing. They set Odin down. Hands moved quickly and carefully, a stethoscope pressed to his small chest, a shake of the head, then a sharper voice. "Weak pulse. Severe dehydration." Another volunteer prepped fluids. A tiny catheter slid into Odin's foreleg. He flinched once, then went limp. My knees nearly gave out. Then the monitor chirped, "Beep." A small, thin sound, but it was there. For the first time, I heard his heartbeat outside my ribs. My legs nearly buckled. The plaza kept its noise, food distribution, children running, cars idling, but at that table, time stilled. The clamor fell away into a blur. All that remained was Odin, the little Doberman the city turned its back on, now lying in the hands of strangers who cared. I stood frozen, knuckles white on the edge of the table. A tear fell, not from weakness, but because after so many closed doors, one had finally opened. I leaned close and whispered into his ear, though he might not hear. "You're not alone anymore." I promised. Now they're here too. We'll get through this. The monitor kept its steady beeps, slow, stubborn. Each one was a small victory. Each one carried us a hair's breadth farther from death. The monitor's beep, beep pulled me back like a hand on a leash. I stood over the table, knuckles white on the cold edge of wood. Each beep was a heartbeat. Each one said Odin was still here. The young volunteer turned to me, urgent but gentle. "We're running fluids. He's severely dehydrated, but he's reactive. You keeping him through the night saved him." I swallowed hard. No one had ever told me that what I did mattered. For years, I'd only heard words like worthless, homeless, burden. Now, hearing that I had kept him alive, something in me trembled as if touched back to life. A vet on the team bent down and laid the stethoscope against Odin's chest. He nodded once. "Weak, but he's fighting. We can keep him." I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for a lifetime. My whole body shook. Tears blurred my vision, but I didn't turn away to hide them. Those weren't shameful tears. They were released. Another volunteer handed me a bottle of water and a sandwich. I was starving, but I took it not for me. I tore it into small pieces, softened them in the water, and lifted them to Odin's mouth. His tongue moved. He swallowed. Small, but enough to make the group murmur with relief. I watched and felt something loosen inside me. My little soldier was still here. When Odin closed his eyes and curled up on the clean towel, I sank onto a plastic chair beside the table. The volunteer touched my shoulder. "You can stay in the support area. We'll provide food, medicine, and a place to sleep. You're not alone." I looked at Odin. His tail thumped the towel, faint as a metronome, an answer without words. I nodded, voice raw. I thought the world had no room for me. But as long as this little guy's alive, I'll stand. The vet looked up at me, fixed and soft. "Not just for him. For you too. Both of you are survivors. We'll help you both." That line cut straight through me. For a moment I saw my old squad, hands that had hauled me from mud and blood. Now, under morning light in the plaza, Odin and these strangers were doing the same thing. The monitor kept its steady beeps. Each one sounded like a knock at the door of hope. I leaned close and whispered, "You dragged me out of the dark, kid. Now I swear I'll drag you back into the light." Odin didn't open his eyes, but his small paw twitched and brushed my finger. A sign, an answer. I closed my hand around it, and for the first time in years, I believed there was a future. Over the next days, I barely left Odin's side. In the support center, the clean towel beneath his small body was the first patch of safety he'd ever known. I sat beside him, listening to his breath slow and even, watching that little belly rise and fall. Every inhale felt like a miracle. Volunteers rotated through. Someone set a bowl of fresh water down. Someone else left a small packet of food. A little girl came with her mother and, brushing Odin's head, looked at me with wide, honest eyes. "Is he going to get better?" she asked. I smiled, voice still raw. "Yeah. He's a little fighter. He'll get up," and he did. Slowly at first, awkward and trembling. I held my breath each time he planted a paw,
afraid he would collapse. Then his tail gave a tentative wag, and he lifted his head to look at me like he wanted to say, "See? I did it." The volunteers clapped softly. I laughed, and the laugh was full of tears. Day by day, Odin healed. He changed me more than I expected. I stopped being the man who sat motionless while life flowed by. I kept busy, tearing food into tiny bites, rubbing his spine to get circulation moving, coaching him around the square. Every time he fell, I bent to catch him. Every time he rose, I rose with him. One afternoon, the vet sat down beside me. He said, "He's getting stronger, but it will take time. Medication, regular food. Are you willing to see this through with us?" I laid my hand on Odin's back and felt the thin warmth under his short coat. He looked up. His brown eyes shone in a way I hadn't seen before. I nodded without hesitation. As long as I breathe, he breathes. That promise was for both of us. After years of drifting, I'd found a reason not to give up. Some nights I still slept under the lean shelter by the center, Odin curled against me. But those nights were different from the ones shivering on the sidewalk. Now I didn't feel invisible. Each gentle paw on my hand, each lick, reminded me I was seen. I had worth. I remember the first moment, Odin trembling beside the smashed frame, pleading without sound. I'd been like that once, forgotten, treated as trash. But now, in the volunteers' laughter and in strangers' bright eyes, both he and I had been given a second chance. Odin couldn't speak. His language was in his eyes and his breath. Still, he taught me more than any lesson. Love doesn't need words. It only needs a hand reaching out. Today I sat on the Civic Center steps, Odin curled at my feet, his head tucked into my lap. A soft wind moved the flagging banners. His tail thumped, slow and steady. I watched people pass, and, for the first time in years, I didn't feel apart. I felt like I belonged. I whispered, half to him, half to myself, not sure who I was trying to reassure. "We came back from the dark. Nobody's going to call you trash anymore. You're Odin, my friend, my family." He opened his eyes a little and licked my finger. A small, simple sign. It warmed me clear through. In that moment, I understood. No life is worthless. Sometimes, the love you give a creature without words saves the person giving it from the abyss. If you've walked with Odin and me so far, you felt the same quickening I did on the morning I first found him, a tiny Doberman shivering behind broken metal, abandoned by a whole city. But look what a single hand and one stubborn promise can do. Odin didn't just survive. He gave me a reason to stand up, to believe that none of us is truly invisible if someone is willing to look. This story isn't just mine or Odin's. Out there, on cold streets, in empty lots, there are hundreds, thousands of lives like his. Eyes that plead without words. Small hearts that still fight. The question is, will we stop or keep walking as if they never existed? If this touched you, share it. Every share, every comment is another voice for those dogs, those cats, those small lives waiting to be seen. Tell us your story, maybe about the time you saved a life, or how an animal saved you, because love has no language, but it can change a life.
Odin proved that. And I believe there are more miracles out there, waiting for us to pause and reach out.